Alright everyone, rolling live again. Just going to work on the pump house this morning for just a little bit, get some pieces cleaned up, and start getting these live streams rolling, keep testing the audio, and hopefully I can finally get things rolling where I don't have any crackle noise. It should be set. I've gone through this so many times and getting this set up. Don't know what happened in the last live stream. I pulled that down. It was just so hard. So I'll cover a lot of that content again, I'm sure, here over the course of this build. But we're going to take the DPM modular learning kit from Design Preservation Models, Woodland Scenics, and we're going to customize it. We're going to use it as a fire pump house for the refinery. Quick little project where I can showcase just how I work with the DPM modular stuff, and then how we're going to incorporate some custom work for custom windows, possibly a custom door, and one or two custom infill pieces that I have in order to extend some pipes out the side of the building as a retrofit piece for this model. So with all that being said, I'm going to get in, finish cleaning these up. I've got most of them pretty well set so that we can get moving on these. Just a quick build session today. Try and keep this one relatively short as I test the settings, just to make sure that I'm not messing. Oh, it doesn't have my audio still messed up. And all I'm doing right now is removing flash. These kits just are notorious for it. Trying to make sure my hat stays out of the video as well. Alright, so take this one. We're going to build it similar to what's on the box. So we're going to go those two side by side. Get those cleaned up. Those for the front, and then we'll have one that side. Could be windows over there. This side maybe is the. No, I think what I'll do is we'll do. This will be the back side behind the garage doors, and then we'll run these. So I'll have a set of windows there, and then windows there on the back side. So here's my front, there's the back. This will be the left side, right side. We'll get some of these cut here. I cut these apart. They're always easier to work with than just one at a time. And I'm getting good flush cuts here. And this is this is actually a pair of rail cutters. I think I got Xeron cutters. Nothing fancy. I do have a pair of nicer ones. I'll have to look and see. Nanye. I'm not sure where I picked those up from, but they work real well. A little bit cleaner cut. I tend to use those when I'm working on some finer scale stuff like grab rails and that kind of stuff. So we're just going to trim all these off, get all my rough pieces moving, and we can do some assembly piece mock-up here so that we can see how this thing's going to go together. Start thinking about which window insert pieces I'm going to put in where. Alright, so that one on the front, that one on the back. That leaves me 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I gotta have some more here. So I need one corner and one corner. Hopefully that background music's coming through good today. Made quite a few adjustments there so that I should be able to talk over it fairly easily. But then you've got music in there when I'm just grooving on the model here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 small ones left. So that's all we need. Go. Side. Okay. Alright, I tend to hit the edges of these. See how the back of the file. A little bit easier just to knock off the back edge of each one of these. It's going to kind of sit in between the 2 DPM pieces so that you don't have any flash that. I don't know if you can see that. You get this edge of flash with just the way the mold is for these pieces. And if you just take a little extra time to knock that off, get a good clean edge on both sides. Yeah, it's a pain because it's one more step, but it makes the alignment of your pieces go together pretty nicely. So that hopefully you're not having to hide as much. And then I always hit that. Just take a little bit off that back edge at the corner there. So we've got a little bit of a ridge here. These flat files are nice because they'll slide right in here, and you don't mess up the edge of the brick. Alright, so that's good. And here's the only thing that just tends to drive me crazy about these kits, and it just is what it is. I mean, once you get them all built up, it's usually not too noticeable. But this is why sometimes I'll customize stuff. It drives me crazy because the brick doesn't all line up. So if we line the head up here at the top edge, which is the most important one because that's the one that's around, that you're looking down on when you're viewing the model, that if that's all not all lined up, excuse me, and it tends to look odd when you try and get in and finish, you know, the backside, because we need to figure out what we're going to do with that top edge, and this is where your parapet piece will cover it, but at some point you need to make transitions into the roofing, and that's what we're going to go over when we get to that point. But this lines up top, and then we're just a little off down below. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll try and find small detail pieces that I can set in front of this as part of the build, so that it kind of hides it a little bit, but as long as we're painting all the brick the same color, it tends to disappear once all the weathering and stuff is done anyway. So that one's good. We'll clean this one up. You can see they're like injection pin molds here, mold marks here. You got to make sure those are sanded flat. A lot of times you'll see models where these pieces are all crooked and wobbly. It's because people don't take the time to get in and just make sure that these back edges are flat. Some people don't like to build models. I get that, but just a little bit. I mean, here we're going to spend 30 minutes to an hour this morning cleaning things up, getting things ready to go, so that when we get into the modeling of putting everything together, the pieces fit. These aren't perfect coming out of the molds and thrown into a package, so there's a little prep work that goes a long way in making these look much better. So that's like with this one. This is all custom. So this piece it's cut and parted together in order to get a 2-story piece that has some customization to it, and that's why I think lends itself. The DPM kits are awesome in that regard. Really lend themselves to doing custom work. One thing I'll point out real quick: you don't have to get perfect on this edge, because as you pull these together, you look at it from the back side, you can see there's a gap, and that's perfect, because you don't have to worry about getting everything perfectly clean on the edges back here, and it gives a little bit for the glue to expand out on the edge of the piece, so that you don't get glue. If you're careful about this, you won't get glue coming out the front. You'll put just enough glue as you put these together that it comes into that back recess, because glue out the front, problem. And usually, I mean, it happens to everybody, but if it gets really bad, then you're left with really trying to find a way to cover that versus trying to clean it up. It's hard to clean up. If it's a little bit, you can probably get to it with an X-Acto knife. So again, here we are knocking that back edge off. And we're a minute a piece. Yeah, remember, we want this back flat. You can use sandpaper. I like these little, jeweler's files. Cheap. There's like, I don't know, maybe $10 for the package at, it's either Michael's or Hobby Lobby or something. Boom, second one's done. I didn't announce this stream, so I'm not sure how many are going to jump in today. So welcome if you're here. I can't really, not looking into the chat stuff at the moment. If I start seeing stuff pop up, if you got any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'm happy to respond to any questions about materials, processes, tools that I use in these. As I start going through these and working through setting up videos, I'll start coordinating more live streams once I know the audio is perfectly set. So that's really the goal of today's stream, is get a couple of these pieces together, get this model started. And let me grab my board. Seeing my other super glue at the moment. I should have been better prepared. I knew I was doing this. Well, maybe my daughter has it. She was working on some stuff and needs super glue. She knew I had it. So, okay, so remember to get out of the way here with this hat. Camera stuff. It's learning something new all the time. Okay, so I'm gonna clean these tops up just a little bit so that I know at least I'm closer on alignment, because I'm gonna set a piece of granite. I'm gonna slide some of this stuff out of the way so I can put that forward. I've got a nice smooth piece of granite. I guess an advantage of being an architect in the industry where I select finishes all the time. This one actually, I had them a long time ago machine a perfect 90-degree corner for me on granite, knowing that I was going to use this for modeling. So I've got that corner marked, but what I'll do is set that. It's going to be tough to see. Need to get the lighting figured out. I'll go back and evaluate this video. But I slide all these up against that piece, and then I'm going to glue this together here in a second to get those two pieces. Actually, we're going to do like this. Alright, that's the back side. Yeah. Okay, so this is the back side. That's why you always test fit before you glue stuff together. I almost glued that up wrong. So this is a good, flat, strong edge. And I'll set this wall in here and glue this together. Doesn't take much. I'm just using Gorilla Super Glue, the gel style. I've used both this and the regular, so... Just go down the middle, use the tip to spread it. Nice thin coat. And then your fingers, get it off there quickly so that you don't end up putting it back on the model. And you can see I just slid that one right in there. Hold them against the top. Press that in place and just hold it here for, I usually go for about a minute. So this is generally the way I start the walls. It's a nice flat surface. My desk is flat mat, and then sometimes I'll work on a piece of glass, which is perfectly flat. It just depends. That way at least I know as I get started here, the individual wall panels are perfectly flat. And I'll go through a video here in the future about how to fix a warped DPM panel. It happens. You can use some hot water. Sometimes a hair dryer will work. If it's just slightly warped, you can heat the plastic, set it on a piece of in between two pieces of glass, or in my case, I'll go a piece of glass and then this piece of granite, and then hold it down flat. Yeah. So first piece. That's the back side. Got a little bit of a bow to it. But we'll work all that out when we get to setting things up. So you can see how this one's slightly curved. We're going to need to work that a little bit. And some of it will bend out just by working on the plastic. But sometimes I'll use hot water. Tends to go a little bit easier when we're doing that. So when I'm using the hot water. But that one's set, so that one's done and ready to go. Those are my two ends. An oil paint session last night, and I've got my brushes sitting in my coker parts, vertical, because that's how I store my brushes to preserve them. And it's I need to print a whole set of that as like my brush holder, or just create a brush holder and print it would be a good idea, I suppose. So this one I'd already cleaned up. Flush up the top a little bit. And again, these aren't critical because we're going to figure out how we're going to do the. We've got these parapet pieces that were included for the back side of the roof. So as we do as I get to the custom roof piece, we'll set these in. The roof card will sit below this bottom edge, and we'll cut all these to fit. It should have, yeah, so we're good to go there. And you can kind of see how I do that, set all those pieces in place, and we won't get to that today as I'm just working on getting the walls done and the cornices done. But you can see how I then can take a piece of styrene, or we may 3D print a piece to use as our parapet. So we'll either have a brick or stone parapet up on top of this. Haven't quite decided exactly how I want to finish the top of this out yet. Still thinking through that. So we'll cook up something. Not sure. I don't like leaving them the same, because what happens is you end up, you've got this. Well, here, I'll just cut one of these off real quick. Snap one off. So these go on the back side, and then you end up, you can fill that gap there if you want to. So that's something that we might do, is we could potentially fill that. But I think what I'll do is run a piece of styrene and create more of a stone cap on top of this, just for an added piece of detailing. And we can do some scribing on the styrene, and I can go through all that with how to set up more of a custom parapet piece. Because the reality is that when we're building our models, sometimes we get carried away with what you see on the face, but we really need to be thinking about, okay, what do I see when I'm looking down on top of the model on these short 1-story, 2-story models? Because as model railroaders, that's the dominant view that we have. Even when we have layouts up at 55 inches, you can still see kind of that top view of the roof. And so that's where, in my opinion, a lot of detail opportunity is missed. And so I don't want to say it's for lack of options in the marketplace. I think that there are companies out there that have some roof details. I think it's just one of those things that for some reason we tend to just ignore or not worry about, because sometimes a model takes too long and you get sick of working on it, kind of thing. You're like, oh, more details. But I love building models, so I'm going to spend some time going through how some of that detailing works, and giving, live stream how to. I'll mess things up, I'll fix them, right here online, or we'll talk about, options to fix things. The what can go wrong will go wrong on live stream, will happen, I'm sure. It's me looking over and catching my stupid hat falling into the stream. So I just need to, that's just going to be a learning process of how I'd start doing these videos and getting that stuff rolling. But I want to cover all that. So I don't want to just do the polished videos at the end. There's plenty of that out there with, people putting videos together. Lots of great modelers that do that. I want to do the more live stream interactive, if possible. Get people, plugged in and engaged in a stream so that you can ask questions while I'm modeling, and we'll look at it. If you've got questions on specific kits, some kits I'll have built in the past that I might be able to help with. But these will be predominantly, most of the videos I do are going to be either Craftsman, scratch built type kit, or dynamic preservation models. I don't buy too many kits anymore. I've got a bunch of stuff. I tend to scratch build most of what I work on. I've got the Craftsman kit I'm working on right now is a brewery, Brett's Brewery. I forget who. I don't know, is that Fine Scale Models? I'm not sure whose that is. Honestly, I just don't remember that stuff. But it's a fun build. I got some custom brewery pieces. I got a mash tune in there. I've got, I think, a grain separator. There's a couple of models I've been working on for the 3D print side of stuff that should be fun, interesting add-ons for the brewery. I can't tell you how many barrels I have. I've got so many different barrels. It's crazy. Barrels are not a problem. Probably have 10 or 12 different barrels modeled. Lots of different sizes. Alright, so there's the front. So I got the front and the back. So this is how we talked about at the beginning of the stream. We're going to go the solid brick wall on the back side. Here we go, solid brick wall on the back side, and then we'll have this big overhead door, which will be perfect. I can cook up a nice big pump inside, and I think what we'll do is we'll model that door open. So I'll have to look into how we're gonna handle that part of it. But so I got front, back. All right, sides. So these, you take the short piece into the back side of the tall piece. And so as you're doing this, if you're thinking about which side is to the viewer, a lot of times what I'll do is the front will get the first piece installed, held in place, and then the short ones will go on the sides. That way I can square things up, glue things together as full pieces, not these small, trying to glue these small pieces together. You can do it, but it's just difficult. So what we want to do is we want to make things easier. That's the goal, is build better models with some tips and tricks that can help. So we're gonna put the short pieces on the ends of our end wall, and we're gonna put the wider pieces on the ends of our front and back wall. And then that way you get all your setup done for your walls. And we'll be cooking here. I'll get all these done. Hopefully they won't take me but 20-30 more minutes here. So let's get rolling. Remember, even though we're only doing one at a time, you still want to prep all these, get that small edge knocked off. And don't be overly aggressive, because you'll take all that brick detail off. Go ahead and get this one while you're here. So you see I've got this angled slightly away from me, and I'm using the file just to take off about 1/32 of an inch. And again, now I'm going to angle it toward me and run the file flat. So I'm basically putting a bevel on the edge of this. So that's just so they don't take off too much detail. And then you can see me, it just shaves off that fine piece there. And my knife, let's take this. Just trying to clean up the parapet a little bit. Alright, this is where this piece of granite comes in super handy. Is now I can line those up, get the top perfectly flat again. Now on this, what you want to do is you want to take, I'll take my end wall here. You want to have a piece handy that you can just slide underneath to set the parapet, just enough there, and I slide that corner of the edge so that as you're gluing it up, it's held flat. If you don't, then the corners end up getting turned, and then that becomes a hurdle to deal with in trying to square up your model. Alright, so we're just going to hit this outside edge just with a small bead. Just enough on there, and I'd already checked that edge. I usually tend to get it down there and then slide it toward the top. Slide this corner just under the edge, so now I can hold this down and let it sit for 30 seconds. And what that's doing is that corner's holding out the brick so that everything stays parallel with the face of the front wall. Easy stuff. Just one of those things that lots of people just don't necessarily think about while they're building the model. Good. And we'll get to the other side. You can see that real fine edge coming off. And again, that's just how they mold these pieces so that they lift out of the molds when they're pulling everything out. Just make sure you line up your brick your row locks, your parapets, any other brick detailing. So this one we're going to glue the other side. I've glued these upside down before. I'm like, what am I going to do? And then you end up either having to get some CAD bonder, which I don't even like doing anymore. It's like, okay, can I salvage it and create a custom piece? That tends to be my go-to now. I do something custom. It was never intended to be custom. Same thing on this side. Slide a piece under the edge. And there you go. That one's set, so I got a corner of this one underneath. Just holding all this together. I'm not going to do any painting on this stream today. I think once I get all these set, I can clean some things up off stream and then prep everything for paint for the next stream, and we'll get into painting this building up. These models really don't take long if you just take a couple hours to sit down and knock things out one step at a time. Alright, so now we've got the full wall, full front wall. There you go. Got a little excess glue in there. Just a touch. So, and it's barely, I don't even know if you can see. Here, let me see, I'll show you. So, right there. And there's just another spot right there. So, real small section that we'll be able to hide most of it when we paint. But I may run some conduit for like an outdoor light. Do some exterior conduit, outdoor light above the entry door, which could be kind of cool. That might be a fun little piece to add. So we'll just set that one up there. Rolling on these. It's clean. Mistakes on live stream. I know I didn't even take long. And don't worry about them. I mean, mistakes happen. We all make them, even the professionals. The question is, how do you fix it? How do we bounce back? In this case, these models again are so simple to work with that even when something like that happens, my go-to is, okay, can I hide it with a downspout, or can I hide it with a piece of electrical conduit or some other pipe that would easily, I mean, just super easy, going to glue right into the corner. And I use a couple different things for my piping. I use copper wire from the hardware store. I use solder. It's great because solder comes in lots of different sizes, easily bendable, which is kind of cool. Got set up. We're gonna go a little bit further in, just so I don't end up with glue again. And then I'm going to slide it in from the outside edge. Again, using, make sure that piece doesn't get glued to that, because there is glue under there. So, all right, now we're set. So you're good. All right, so you can run. Again, another detail that's easy to add is exterior wires on a building. Simple way of adding some realism. You can, I recommend painting. If you're going to put color to it, I'd recommend painting it before you put it on the building. Just because once you put it on, then you have to mask it if you want to paint it. So it's 6 one, half a dozen the other. Sometimes you could just hit it with a wash, and that usually takes care of it. And when you're doing a dirty weathered model, that's an easy way to get in there. There we go. That's a nice clean joint there. Okay, so last one here on this one. I don't get too picky about trying to clean out the brick joints at this point, because once your whole model is glued together, then you want to wash it under warm soapy water. And you can use a toothbrush to really clean. You want it as perfectly clean a model as you can get before you do any paint. Just don't hand holding a model. The recipe for disaster. People don't think that it's that big a deal, but the oils from your skin get on this plastic, and then they just wreak havoc, and people deal with all kinds of issues down the road. I'm a big advocate for building clean models, even if you're creating dirty weathered models. So, okay, so good. Using that end piece to make sure that we're parallel again. Done. Hey, if you rolled in, drop me a line in chat. Let me know you're here. Any questions? Throw those in chat. Oh, I need to get these edges, that's why. It means you want to get the side that's going to go against the brick. You want that one flat. So these shorter ones take just a little bit more work because you do want to ensure those are flat. It's all in the prep work. Good clean corners. You can see that little edge coming right off. You know it's not unlike anything else. The more prep work you put in, see this one has the brick on it, so you want this back edge to be nice and flat. Actually, no, that's the side that goes here. So this is something you want to make sure that you take care of. One edge of these pieces is a flat edge, and that's important to pay attention to. I mean, I don't have any more small ones, so I've got 1, 2, 3 to the correct orientation and 1 that's not. So I'm going to have a messed up corner. Why'd they do that to me? I'm not sure I've had that happen before. Maybe I just haven't noticed. But you should have 2 edges that are left and 2 edges that are right. So that when I place these down on the model, I've got brick that wraps the corner. So like in this case, here is my brick edge. That needs to go on the left side. Because this then sits against that face, flat. And so you don't need to see brick on that edge. But what I don't have is another one of those. I've got 3 that go one direction, and then this one should be the other. Oh, I went upside down. Duh. So that's why. There you go. So I did have them right. So dry fit good. So I got all those there. Make sure that brick edge faces inside, not outside. You don't want it outside, because again, when this wraps the corner, it's going to sit, in theory, flush with that edge. So you want to get this edge of the brick as nice and flat as you can, so that when you get to that point of gluing these corners together, you've got a flat edge for those pieces to mate up and get you a nice clean process. Matter of fact, I'm going to go grab a piece of sandpaper and we're going to sand on flat surface. This is from when I was doing some prep work for those tower pieces, so I just go flat against this, shift where I'm holding it so that I get that even pressure and flat surface all the way down the face. And you can see that the shine will go away when it's flat. That's what you're trying to get to, is the elimination of the plastic sheen. It doesn't take much pressure, just a little bit, and try and hold it as vertical as you can, perpendicular to the edge. You don't want to be taking off a whole lot. So like right there is perfect. So what you can see is that whole piece has just there's just a hint of the sheen left, but I'm good and flat, so I don't want to go any further. Then I need to prep this other side. And again, just angle it slightly away from me. brick goes to the inside. Same trick, use the opposite side panel. Come in, set this. Keep everything as square as you can. In the early stages, it makes life a lot easier when we go to glue all these pieces together. Good. That one's done. Now this is what I'm talking about. So when these go together, there's a little warp in them, but we can use that as perfectly flat edge there. And I'll sand this just a touch more before we glue these up. But then that sets your corner. So the cleaner you can get that edge there in your corner, the better model is just going to look overall. So it's worth the time to do it. Other side. All right, guys, drop comments in chat. Any questions about the build, where I'm going with it? Don't hesitate to ask. That's what this is all about, is getting stuff in the chat. Create an interactive stream. All right, again, finished brick on the inside. Just to keep things parallel. All right, one more wall to go. You can see, I'll just throw these in here. Oh, these are the wrong ones. My bad. So I'm going to develop a similar style to my full arch windows for this, and that's a separate video I'll probably pull together on the design of the DPM windows and doors for the half arch like this. But this, you can see this doesn't slide right in. We need to take the back edge off of all these windows here as well. So the same way we've been doing these outside edges, there's just a little bit of flash that you have to clean up, and then the new custom windows will drop right in. Don't have my piece to line it up against. I really should have this going out here. I've got plenty of these. I'm just holding it flat. Alright guys, we're 50 minutes, so I think what I'm going to do is I'll get these walls done, chat for a few minutes at the end here, that way I can cap these at an hour. That would be my goal, is that, you know, it's how much can we accomplish in an hour. And maybe that's part of how I do these random live streams on this build for the pump house. We'll see. We know it took me an hour to do this. You know, I can track how long it took me, and by the end of it, I can say this was a 6-hour build, an 8-hour build, whatever it boils down to. This must have been the first one I did. It's cleaned up. Setting the last pilaster column in place. And this wraps up the walls, folks. Get my coffee closer to that. All right. Any questions? All right, so I got the 2 ends done, front and back done, all in an hour's build. So what I'll do is I'll clean up. This gives you an idea of how stuff lines up. I'll clean up the insides of the windows and some of the generic sanding for the parapets off stream. But now all my walls are set. So once I get everything final sanded and ready to go, I can have these set up and ready to go for the next stream. So that way, when I jump into this, we'll probably have. Maybe I'll go ahead and paint the base brick color offline. The next stream, what we can do is we can work on how we're going to weather our brick to match this example. I'll get a larger. I wasn't planning on showing this, but I've got it, so give me just a second here. Alright, so next what we'll do is we'll go over the customization. Come on, focus for me. We'll go through how I customize and do kind of a how-to on brick, the grout, and the aged weathering to get to this point, so that we have a reference, you know, whether it's a picture or another model that you've done. What are you matching to get there? So this raw plastic to burgundy. I'll have the spray paint colors that I use for that. I think this is a red primer that I use, and then I'll have the pastel chalks, the pan pastels. I'll have all that stuff set out so that we can get going right away with putting down the color. We'll have a paint session on painting individual bricks. I'll have all those colors as part of that session. So that way you guys can see exactly how I get to this level of weathering on the kit, and then we'll paint all of our windows and infill completely separate. We'll do those, and then we'll glue those in from the back so that we can either do new windows, new brick, since we're retrofitting an old building that's existing, that's one of the things that we can do to create some unique character. Is maybe that brick, I'll probably go with the same color, but it'll be in new condition, not as worn. So, and then the windows will be steel windows, and we'll go through that, and I think we'll go ahead and give those maybe a brand new look on the windows. So just some things to think about. Appreciate you guys taking the time to jump in and watching kind of step one on this build here today. We'll keep wrapping up. Future streams, we'll obviously have the next one where we're doing the brick tutorial, and then we'll follow up with a roof tutorial so that you can see how the roof and the parapet and everything goes together. And then we'll get to the interiors with a custom pump and how that pump will go through the side wall. And that's one of the reasons why we did the blank wall at the back, is that now when I come over here to the side and glue this side in, if I'm setting the pump inside in this area here, then now I've got two places to bring piping out the wall, and I've got custom pieces that will set into this that we can attach styrene piping to. So nice clean build in that regard. And then the other side we'll put windows in the front, and then we'll probably what I'll do is on the back side I'll put at least one louver in for like mechanical ventilation, and then another, maybe we'll have a custom brick infill with a pipe fitting that's like a flue that allows us to take the mechanical equipment exhaust, intake in through the louvers, exhaust through a flue that then goes up with a pipe that goes up above the roof. So I think that's a good place to end the stream. Appreciate anybody that jumped in today. Again, if you got any questions, don't hesitate to drop questions, comments below. And again, thanks for hanging out. We'll be back soon.